everyone. This is Jason Tucker, and this is WP Watercooler's WPblab, episode number 145. 145, Bridget.
That's crazy.
Today we're talking about funding open source with agency work, how plugins are really built. Ooh, we're getting down and dirty in this stuff. It's going to be awesome. I just want to let you know that WPblab is made possible this week by our sponsors, ServerPress, Kinsta, and Vendor Fuel. Let's go real quick into ServerPress, shall we? ServerPress, makers of desktop server, they make WordPress development easy, and not just WordPress development, local WordPress development easy. Go check them out over at serverpress.com. We appreciate them for helping us out. Bridget, let's introduce ourselves before we get into our friend Chris over here.
That sounds like a mighty fine idea, sir. My name is Bridget Willard, and I do social media marketing and some copywriting for WordPress products and agencies. You can find out more about me, my pricing, and everything else at bridgetwillard.com.
Cool. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog, and I do this show as well as another show called WPwatercooler. Feel free to go take a look at that. That goes on today at 11 o'clock Pacific. So yeah, feel free to go take a look at that. We'd really appreciate it. I do want to let you know, if you like this content and the stuff that we're putting out here, I want you to subscribe to it, but I also want you to do one more thing. While you're on whatever it is that you're on, if you can leave a review. If you're listening to this on iTunes, we would really appreciate a review. And we're actually showing those reviews on our website over at WPwatercooler.com. So definitely go in there and kind of leave us a 5-star review. That'd be great. And we'd appreciate that. So let's get into Chris. Chris, tell us a little about yourself.
So I'm the CEO and co-founder of a WordPress plugin called Lifter LMS, and I help course creators create, launch, and scale. And we just happen to do that through a WordPress-based solution.
I love your hat, Chris. You want to tell people a little bit about that hat?
Oh, this is a hat that Matt Medeiros over at the Matt Report put together, and it was a fundraiser for mental health in the WordPress community. The name of the company, what is it again?
WP and Up.
Yeah, WP and Up. Great product. Dan Moby over there is putting that together just to provide resources to help with mental health in the WordPress community. So I got this hat just to show my support. I've been around the WordPress world all the way from freelancer to agency owner to product owner to, community advocate. So I've been around WordPress, all sides of it, and mental health is an important issue in our community, especially as we work remotely and all this stuff. So I just wanted to show my support. That's where the hat came from.
Yeah, I knew that, but I thought it's funny because one of my friends said, "You broke it, you fix it." Anyway, go check out WPnup.org. That was a free plug. They're my client also. And I'm a recurring donor. So, but yeah. So anyway, all this stuff that we do is not cheap. It's not free. Right? It's like not free as in freedom, not free as in beer or free as in pizza or whatever. It's funny because I started as a musician, right? And I used to be part of this website called pizzaandsoda.com because they would ask you to gig and your payment would be a pizza and a soda. It's so ridiculous, right? And here I am, a songwriter, and then I come into WordPress, and I remember very distinctly being on this show in my early days, October 2015-ish, arguing with Roy Sivan about, why are you guys giving away your intellectual property for free? This is stupid, right? Because everything that comes out of your brain can be copywritten. And so, but then I became part of the Peace, Love, and WordPress. But I think it's important for us to have an honest discussion in our, WordPress is 16. It's time to have adult conversations now. How are these plugins actually funded? And there are several kinds. And we're really thankful that you decided to come be part of the show. Can you tell us a little bit about your agency, just so people know?
Yeah. So, when I introduce myself, I talk about Lifter LMS. That's our product. But my company is actually called Codebox. And my business partner, Thomas Levy, he's the developer mastermind of our dynamic duo. We own Codebox together. And before we built Lifter LMS, we did client work focused on online courses and training-based membership sites. And our very first users were actually our high-end clients. who are paying us a lot of money. And that's what CodeBox is. But we don't really talk about CodeBox anymore since we don't offer agency work anymore. But it's still the underlying business that funded everything that made Lifter LMS possible.
Wow. So were those some like really long hours? I mean, where was the point? How about go backwards? What was the point? You're doing agency work, you're doing it for these things. When were you like, hey, we should sell this?
So let me just go back to say that I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I was a dog musher in Alaska, and when I left and I operated a tour business, I knew how to manage people and like survive in the wilderness type stuff. But when I discovered WordPress, I started blogging about leadership because it's a topic that's important to me. And my first year when I left Alaska trying to make money with WordPress, I only made $5,000. And that's what I mean by not being the sharpest. I had to go through all this pain to figure out how to become a successful freelancer, then build an agency, and then go. So I've seen the whole journey, and it's a long, hard road. And if I were to calculate, Lifter LMS has a free plugin, free core. That's what our contribution to the WordPress community. And there's other ways we contribute, but that's our big contribution. But if somebody were to try to build that from scratch, I mean, I've probably spent as a company, in terms of initial development, like if you were going to just build it yourself, you could easily spend $300,000 doing that. So it's a platform. It's huge. It does a lot of things, but it also provides incredible ROI in the hands of the right expert or business owner or school or agency or whatever. So it's worth it.
So that's bigger than some doctors' student loans, Chris. So can you tell us a little bit about, like, how did you have an agency doing client work and develop this side hustle?
Please tell me that you had a client that needed a learning mechanism and you were like, sure, we'll build it. Is that what happened or no?
Yeah, well, so basically,
I'm curious because that usually you usually have to scratch your own itch to get that through that one thing, and then you're like, man, okay, that worked. We could totally market this. So how'd that work for you?
So first of all, like I mentioned, I was at $5,000 a year when I started. In the course of 3 years, I got to the point where we were doing agency work and doing, $30,000, $50,000, $70,000 projects. So I went through this learning curve, and I got lucky and was smart about who I partnered with and how we designed skill sets. And I discovered about myself, I didn't even know I was an entrepreneur until much later in life, and also that I was a bootstrapper in the truest sense of the word. No outside funding. Everything is literally just created by adding value to clients and customers, and figuring out
matching boots too.
Yeah, that too. And that's the thing. I mean, I have one of my kind of personality quirks is I'm an endurance guy. I have an extremely strong work ethic. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but if we're gonna throw down and we're gonna do an impossible task and it's gonna take years, I'm pretty good at like that kind of commitment, and maybe it's a little bit crazy. So, and just to give a little more color to the story here, there was times when the developer I was paying to build the first version of Lifter LMS, which we built in about 90 days for the first launch of it, he was making around $5,000 a month. I was only bringing home $1,000 as a business owner, but I could see it. And one of my and I could see the future, and I could see where it was going. I mean, this is the part where it's a little bit of self-discovery as a product person, as an entrepreneur, as a visionary. I didn't realize that this vision thing I had was what it was, but it allowed me to take incredible risks. And like where we are today, I saw like a long time ago. And where we're going from here is like really mind-blowing, but it takes time and sacrifice to get through all that.
That's so cool.
Wow. Like I feel almost like I feel this empathetic amount of stress.
Yeah.
I mean, were you married? Did you have kids then? What was?
Yes. So I've talked about this. I went in really deep on this topic. There's a podcast with an executive leadership coach person called Work from the Inside Out, where I go into this deep. If you want to find that story, just look for that podcast and search for my name. But one of my crazy things, it just comes from living in Alaska and just being an outdoor person and a survivalist, is I can get by on very, very little money. And, there was a period in the story in the lean times where I left Montana. I walked into a RV dealership, got a travel trailer for $0 down, so that's a $230 a month payment, and I got a SUV that could pull it for $0 down for a $200 payment. So I went from paying $1,000 a month for my house, for my wife and 2 kids and me and my business, to $400 a month. And it's all about mindset. So were we homeless? Kind of. But we went on an incredible adventure, visited national parks. We homeschool our kids and stuff. I remember sitting there. I can see Yosemite Falls out the window. I'm on like the ranger station Wi-Fi, like doing client work. That's reality,
awesome.
but it's all about mindset.
So you were a digital nomad before it was popular to be a digital nomad.
Yeah, I mean, I was an early person in that, and even with how I used to work in Alaska seasonally and like hiring people like remotely and on these calls and stuff, I did a lot of traveling and seasonality. I never lived in the same place for more than a year or whatever. That was like 15 years of my life living that way. So,
Wow.
but that's the thing is, so it's a unique thing, and some people can't do it for different reasons, but like we could get by on very little money. I mean, we grow a lot of our own food. We still do. I live on an organic farm. We don't have the expenses that most people choose. The house I live in right now, we like small town living, is $145,000 house. It's not a $200,000, a $300,000, a $500,000 house. I recently had my identity stolen. Somebody walked into did loan fraud in my name and walked out with a $50,000 like Mercedes SUV. And they said, I got it resolved and stuff. But my business partner, Thomas, made the comment like, "Oh, wow, we must be doing okay now that you could qualify for that." I was like, "Dude, that's not funny. I have to go through all this bureaucratic red tape, but it is kind of funny." But what I'm saying is, the reason I could pull it off is I live below my means, and I'm a pretty minimalist kind of person.
Yeah,
so
you're definitely not in Southern California.
No.
Yeah.
You can get a shoebox out in front of my house for $150,000, and I live in an apartment.
Maybe. Yeah. So was that your lifestyle choice that just happened to work out? Or were you like, okay, I want to make this work. Let's live on less for X amount of years, and then it'll start paying us back?
I mean, one way I think about this is I'm a nice guy. Like I'm kind of like an honorary Canadian, super nice. I'm I'm a modest person, but there's a part of me that was born with the middle finger out.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, and it's wraps into the Alaska thing and everything, is I just always did my own thing. I studied what I want to study in college. I wanted to be around. I love dogs, so I took it to the absolute extreme conclusion.
Yeah,
dog
for sure.
in Alaska. But that's so I didn't really have. It's a little bit different story of like I never fit in the box. I just couldn't do the box at all. So I just did my own thing, and that always came with like starting at the bottom, just like that. Okay, you're going to be an online business guy. Like this is 10 years ago. You know how to manage people, and you're really good with like clients and customers and like that human interaction. But I had to learn a completely new skill set, and that took. I've gone through this cycle so many times in my life that I'm comfortable with it, but it is very uncomfortable.
Yeah. I definitely think you should write a book, leadership lessons from dog mushing. That needs to happen.
That needs to happen.
That needs to happen because that would be epic. I am like just blown away. I did not know all this about you. I knew you had a cabin. I knew that you farmed and stuff. Like a lot of people, like one of my friends, Robert Nissenbaum, has the same mindset. He lives in Tacoma or Tahoma. Sorry. I always mix up with the car. And that he grows a lot of his own stuff, catches his own fish, blah, 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 like that.
Yeah.
So, how, like, getting back to like this whole, okay, so you're on the freemium, now you have these subscriptions. Like how many years did it take for the subscriptions to come to the point where the income, the revenue from the subscriptions alone paid for the development work itself? Like break even. When did you?
2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years. So that's pretty normal for like every single business on the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to show, like, I like to, there's one of my phrases and it applies to a lot of different things, is it's a process. It's not an event. Like a product launch or something it's an event, but it's a process. And I see a product launch as the starting line, not the finish line. And
that makes sense. Yeah.
So it takes a while. It just takes a while. And to give you an idea, we intentionally launched the first version of Lifter LMS. We took 90 days to build the prototype, taking all our profits out of the agency business to fund this pet project. And on our initial launch, we said if we didn't get 100 customers, we're going to shut it down. We got 42 customers on our initial launch. And because I'm kind of bullheaded, we didn't shut it down. But 42 customers paying $149 is not, I mean, the economics before, there's a 3-year ramp for it to actually, work. And I'm pretty good at pre-selling. I pre-sell stuff all the time.
Yeah.
People are buying our groups plugin. It doesn't exist yet. It's being actively developed. I'm open about how to do that.
Sure.
But even when you do all the right stuff like that, I call that customer financing.
Yeah.
You get like early adopter discounts and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's still, the reality is it's going to take a while. You might get lucky. I learned from Chris Lima a conversation. It might have been Jason Cohen. He says this statement about products, that you can be in 3 categories. You can be the Walking Dead, you can have a modest win, and you can have like a runaway success. And everybody talks about the runaway successes. Like, think about page builders. Right. I'm modest win guy, but I'm playing the long game. So it's different. And also through luck, through choosing a good niche, for being super passionate. I mean, our mission is to lift up others through education, and to be a model on how to do freemium and WordPress. That carries me through the lean times. Because I'm a modest win guy.
Yeah. So how much time did you spend in doing client work while you were building Lifter LMS? And were the people that were doing your client work also involved in building Lifter at the same time? Like, were they?
This is a great question. And a lot of people don't talk about this kind of stuff. Yes. The reality is the client work always cannibalizes the product. It's extremely difficult. If you have a client who's paying you $10,000 a month, or you're working on this giant like $50,000 project, and they ask for something, or something breaks on their site, or whatever it is, you gotta react. Mm-hmm. And so I'm not perfect at it. Like, it sounds like, oh, you build a skunk works, you put different developers over here, but when you have resources and financial constraints, that is not a reality. Yeah. So the best way I know how to do that is to pre-sell and announce a launch date, which developers hate committing to. And I understand it too, because we don't know until we get into it how long it's going to take, especially if it's a brand new thing that never existed before. I understand that. But if you want to pre-sell, you need to do your best guess and commit and handle it gracefully if you need to do a delay.
Automobile industry does it all the time.
Yeah, the Cybertruck. Like I
No,
said.
I mean, not just that, but I mean before.
Exactly.
This is
The
how
polygons
Enzo,
are gonna eventually turn into a truck, but at this point, it's just a bunch of polygons.
y'all are funny, but like that thing is a mess. That's another episode. But Enzo Ferrari funded his racing by selling cars, and they were not manufactured unless they were paid for, and that's why Ferrari has the brand that it does.
Right.
So he prioritized his hobby or his passion, which was racing, and then funded it by selling cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So individually, and
Cash
that's why
cow.
they're
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, that's the thing, is like the money comes from somewhere. The Ferrari racing company was not self-sustaining. And we like to think that these plugins should be self-sustaining because, you know, I spent $99 and then people are like, that's so expensive. I'm like, is it expensive? Because I spent $14.99 a month on Hootsuite, and I spent $12.99 a month on Canva, and I spend $9.99 a month on Dropbox. And you do all these SaaS things, and we're spending $25 a month on Netflix, and you have all these subscriptions, and you don't even think about it. And we're not even talking about me buying a bottle of Bullet Rye, which is $35 when it's not on sale for $25. Oh, website, this is too expensive, that's too expensive. Like, I think part of the problem with these freemium models not being sustainable faster is that our pricing's way too low initially.
Yeah, I mean, this was a conscious decision we made at the very beginning, and like just to couch it, like I saw a testimonial come across the WordPress repo, like basically saying, her name was Sarah. She was saying, "Thanks so much. I used your plugin and I made $300,000 in 10 months." And I'm like, that's awesome. Congratulations. That's why we build stuff like this. But there's an ROI if you put it in the right hands. And because of that, because we're building a platform, not a utility, it's really valuable.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted the economics to work so that we can build. We need development resources. We need support resources. We do high touch stuff. Like I run a weekly office hours mastermind with our top customers. All that takes money. And if you don't charge what it's worth, you can't, you know, if you're not doing, I mean, some people call it value-based pricing or whatever, but you can't afford to deliver the quality and the speed at which you need to if your economics are wrong. And so what we intentionally did when we looked at the space was like, at the time, this is October 2014 when we launched, like there is no quality WordPress LMS plugin on the WordPress repository. So like, let's do that. Let's validate it first by charging for it. But I always knew we were going to go free. And then, but let's also go premium as well. So we basically gave more away for free than had ever been done before, and put a flag in the sand of like, this is going to be super valuable, super premium. We're going to build the, you know, this tool set for course creators and people who want to build training-based membership sites. Like the website is the business. We need to have, it's a premium product. So that's it. I mean, that's how we did it. I think a lot of people just go all in. I mean, I think we might even have the most expensive WordPress option. Like our Infinity bundle is $999 a year, and we don't do lifetime deals. So that's the price. I mean, that's what the price is now.
Yeah, so, that's worth it. Yeah. I mean,
and it's still cheap. That's still cheap. That's
well,
if
you
compare that to enterprise tools,
If you got Sarah over here making $300,000 on it, and she's going to drop $1,000, a grand is nothing. She's
not even 1%.
Right. No problem at all. And I try to explain that to people when we talk about like web hosting, and we talk about, especially if you're doing e-commerce web hosting, like those sorts of things. It's like that's the rent that you're paying for the building that doesn't exist. The virtual building that's there, that's what you're paying for. And you want to spend $12 on your rent? and you're wondering why the security sucks and people keep stealing stuff out of the cars out front. Well, that's the reason why, you know.
You have a slumlord.
Exactly. You didn't spend enough to get good quality service that you need. Which kind of gets me thinking a little bit about when you're doing this agency type work and you're trying to figure out like how much to charge people for the agency work, knowing that you're needing to use that to not only fund the other part of the business, which would be Lifter LMS, but also the fact that you got to still pay all your people to work there as well. How did you guys navigate that? Like that, you know, you just go and say, well, we charge $500 an hour. Or is it like, well, it's not $500 an hour, it's $150 an hour? Like, so how did you navigate that for your pricing?
So we did $200 an hour. That was our rate. And but I've done the full journey. Like I started as a WordPress person and freelancer who's not a coder, not a designer, just putting plugins together, charging $30 an hour. That's where I started in like 2012. I sold my first website for $300 to a real estate developer. So I've been in all.
People are cheap.
I've seen all the price points. I've been experiencing it, and it was a combination of luck and just strategy to when I merged my agency with Codebox. It used to be called Badget Media. That was mine. And then I met Thomas, and we had another business partner at the time. They were operating under Codebox. They had higher end clients than I did. And we merged our companies together, and now I have a premium option, and I just slotted in with what they needed, which was with my people skill thing, a project manager, and I could go into a discovery, and you know, they had already qualified the good clients who had budget. And then I could architect just with the visionary stuff and the client stuff, like the solution for them and clearly explain the ROI in a 3-call discovery process. And we would charge $200 an hour. And there's a great video on YouTube that Chris Lemma made a long time ago about how to do project pricing. Essentially, it works like this. There's 3 columns for like you develop your developer user stories, right? And then you create the first column is like, if this goes amazing, it's going to take, my guess is this long for this user story. If it goes as what I think, it's going to go this long. And then the third option is, you know, if it really falls off the tracks, it's going to take this long. And there's an equation, I don't remember it off the top of my head, but we literally use that spreadsheet to price out our projects and do project-based pricing. But we could have never had the extra capital sloshing around if we weren't at the premium end of the website agency work. We didn't take projects under $30,000.
Yeah.
And that's we had to be operating at that level to be able to afford to not pay ourselves as much as we needed to, you know, develop Lifter LMS in the early days.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think a lot of companies haven't realized is the fact when you're building a WordPress plugin, especially one that's not a bespoke one just for one client, you're building features that no one but maybe a couple people are going to use, you know, in some of these things. All those checkboxes that are on the, you know, on the options page, all those things are things that could potentially be used on a site. And so when you're building a very bespoke plugin, there's no checkboxes. Right. You don't need it. You don't need to provide options. You're providing the solution. Here's the solution. You're good to go. You know, we've already figured out. You've already given us the specs of what you need. We've built it. But when you're building something that is going to be used by different companies, you have to build in additional features that are going to cost more money and cost more time. And you're going to have to spend all this extra R&D work to kind of get those built out. And it drives me crazy when people say like, oh, why is this plugin so expensive? And I'm like, you know how expensive it would be if they built you the bespoke version of it just for you. Just give them your credit card for $100 and be quiet. Like, right? It's not that big of a deal.
Or say in Texas, boy, sit down and eat your supper.
So how long did it take for you guys to go from like your initial people are purchasing your product to now that you feel that you've paid off that R&D work, you're actually making a profit, if you will, off of the labor that you put into it?
Well, we're 5 years into it, so
Yeah.
like 5 years to overnight success or whatever. And then I would say that we're still running the same playbook. We're
Yeah.
heavily reinvesting
Yep.
in future development and building the team. If we were trying to just pull cash, we would do a completely different strategy, but we're literally doubling down on making it better and better, faster and faster. And so we no longer have to have difficult conversations with our wives about how much the draw is going to be this month, how much money we're going to have. So
Right.
that's like a huge win. And that took 3 years of struggle to get through. But yeah, it is still like what happens for growth for us is that whole thing where what got you here won't get you there.
Right.
There's not like this perfect, like, I mean, you may look at a popular WordPress plugin that has some exponential growth. And I mean, if you look at something like Elementor, which is exploding, they're also VC backed or whatever. I believe that's correct. That's totally different.
Totally different.
And there's also plugin development companies that are financially wealthy already for various reasons, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I say the reality with like most of it is more people like us or our story where like there's not extra financial resources and it's really freaking hard.
Yeah.
So. Well, hey, let me tell you about something we like real quick here, and then we'll hop back into talking real fast here. I want to let you guys know a little bit about Kinstoncom. If you're tired of unreliable and slow hosting, check out Kinstoncom, who makes managed WordPress hosting to the next level, powered by Google Cloud. All their plans include PHP 7.4, SSH access for developers, one-click staging server, 20 global data centers, free SSL, free CDN, 24/7 expert support, and they'll also migrate your site free of charge. Visit them over at Kinsta.com, and if you like, you can go check out their customized dashboard over at demo.kinsta.com. So feel free to go take a look at that. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much, Kinsta, for helping us out. We appreciate you.
So you said it was really freaking hard, and y'all had wives, and some of you had children at that point. Can you talk a little bit about how financing open source with agency work affected work-life balance? Like, I feel like work-life balance is a millennial thing. The rest of us just worked because, I mean, I have my own opinions about it, but like 100 years ago, people worked and they were glad to have a job. And that's how you paid for your, clothes and rent and stuff like that. And now we're all like work-life balance, like,
It was extremely hard. And what it first of all, like when somebody's married to an entrepreneur, it's all glamorized, the whole thing, like business owner and then supportive spouse, and there's like this story of glamour here, but the reality is I have a lot of sympathy for like non-entrepreneur spouses because they get thrown through a lot. And as an entrepreneur myself, I have a high risk tolerance, and I have to protect my family from getting too much of that, especially when things are hard. I realize like you have to be careful with that part. And really it took there's some periods of like extremely high stress where where I was sacrificing health and sleep and stuff like that I had to recover from later. So that's the reality of what it's like in the lean times, and especially when you're making sacrifices, you have to have a strong support network. That's why you need to be around other entrepreneurs who can, that you can empathize with, and you don't necessarily have to protect your spouses from, or you can talk to somebody openly and honestly about your struggles. So,
yeah. And
but
you
it
almost
doesn't.
need to have a spouses of club as well, then, right?
Yeah, totally. And it's one of those things in society where until somebody's successful or has escape velocity of their their business or their agency or their freelancer lifestyle, they deal with a lot of social stigma of just like, why don't you get a real job, or you're it's not working, why don't you just give up? Like, there's so much of that in society that it's very challenging for the entrepreneur in the lean times, and it's hard on the family.
So I got a question here on Facebook. Malcolm asks, are you doubling down because of competition, or do you have another driving force?
No. So our philosophy is we focus on our customer, not the competition. So like in our space, LearnDash is a big competitor. I actually see them more as a friendly rival. It's not. We don't use their plugin. We don't, and maybe to a fault. Like, we literally have a head in the sand. We haven't opened it up. And the way I see it is, we grow the ecosystem together, and I'm sure they're good at some things, and we're good at some things, and our price points are different. So it's healthy to have competition in the space. But for us, the driving force is, and why we double down is really comes back to that mission and vision of I'm a lifelong learner myself. I love learning new things. So, and the world is changing, the way education works, the way people learn as adults, and careers are changing faster and faster. The freelancer nation, people are becoming their own. There's never been a better time with all this video tech and everything to like make digital products. I am so passionate about that is why we are doubling down. And I'm also passionate about the WordPress community and this open source thing that we want to show the world, just not through what we say. I mean, we're kind of talking here, but more through our actions of how to be a model for how to do freemium in WordPress, so that you can give away incredible value for free, but also build a viable business and make a bunch of other people successful in their lives as well. So that's extremely motivating for us, and that's what carries us through.
Yeah, I'm just like you in that I've never seen Matt's show ever. Like, I've never watched any of Matt's stuff. I've never seen any of Matt's podcasts, listened to him, done any of those things. I actually tried my best to not listen to any other WordPress podcast type things out there. And for me, it's like, I don't want to be the one copying somebody else. Did you feel that was the same way for you? Is that you just wanted to make sure that like the feature set that you're building into your product isn't something that you're copying from someone else?
Yeah, I mean, so for example,
what's your reason? I guess I kind of put words into your mouth, but like, what is the reason why you would not look at your competitor stuff?
Because we believe that the best products are built out of the voice of the customer. So that's why we did.
Yeah.
That's why we were able to charge $30,000, $50,000, $70,000 for websites. And there was a lot of heavy custom development there. It's not like we were just slapping a big price on what we did.
Right.
But when we work with these membership site creators and course creators, and I also have a history of making some of my own course projects, I really understand and get what these people are trying to do. And that's like, even this groups thing we're adding now, it's just there. They're asking for it. They're screaming for it. And we are, because we're really engaged with our community, we're building it.
Right.
And that's just how we develop. It's so much. I couldn't speak to it because I've never really built in a Me Too style. Like, okay, I'm just going to take this and copy that. It's more about like first principles and like, what do they want?
Mm-hmm.
What are their goals? What are the jobs to be done? How do we make power and flexibility without building a bloated interface? Like, these are the kind of operating principles that drive us.
Yeah, copying never really works anyway. I mean, not in any industry at all. Like, you try to you copy something, it just ends up looking like a mishmash, blah, blah, blah. And again, in the automobile industry, this happens a lot. They're like, what is that? It looks like they're trying to be a BMW. So it's like even worse. So, you know, they're just not really that happy about it. Yeah. So there's some more questions.
I have one other question in here, but I don't want to turn this into the Lifter LMS support show. But Ross Kyle asks, is it easy to make a Lifter LMS based mobile app?
So this is a perfect example of what we were talking about, about like how we're still running the same playbook. We have an incredibly advanced REST API, and that's the reason we're building that, is because our customers, again, are like screaming from the mountaintop, I want a mobile app. Well, in order to do that well, the WordPress solution needs to have an extremely well built out, robust REST API. So that's literally, it's already out, it exists. But yeah, that's what, there's room in the market for a company like AppPresser, as an example, could add Lifter LMS stuff and kind of make it easier for people to get into it. But you can also hire a developer right now on Upwork to make your mobile app that works through our REST API.
Yeah, make your own app, and it probably works better anyway. I mean, because a course is so individualized.
Yeah, there's less checkboxes on that options page, like I talked about. Very, very, very specific type of stuff there. So that's
like, you know, one of the things you say, Chris, is that you really care about how developers, you want to serve as a model for other developers. So what would you say to that one guy or gal or non-binary gender fluid person, that WordPress developer who has this itch and they're like, I think I'm going to sell this. What is one thing you would tell them that you wish you knew? I'm not sure that's even applicable because I feel like you've always known this is where you're going to be. But what's one piece of advice you think is essential for them to have year one?
You got to get uncomfortable. Like, it's extremely uncomfortable. Think about the like if you were flush with cash, you could do all this like market research. You could like build all these like test cases and clickable prototypes and all this like traditional VC funded lean startup story thing. Or you can get uncomfortable with your client, bring home less of a paycheck, and instead of having this really safe and secure testing environment for the first version of your product, put it on your client's site that's spending a ton of money with you and is already moving with their own customers. And if their website goes down, it's going to be a huge issue. There's a lot of stress and uncomfortableness around that level of audacity. But that's my advice, is get uncomfortable, do it with real people. Like, don't just like copy something that exists, and prepare for the long haul.
That's good advice.
Like it. Bridget's taking copious notes as she does.
Well, I do, because you know what? First of all, I'm like you. I'm a lifetime learner. Like, I'm addicted to documentaries. I feel like, wasn't it you who said
that was me this morning?
Yeah, that was you. You're like, tell me a documentary. I'm like, anything by Ken Burns. Like, I feel like I would have done so much better in history class if I had had Ken Burns documentaries to watch first.
Or just Netflix in general.
No, I mean, yeah, but like, I don't learn from reading. I learn from hearing. I'm auditory. So then I write this down. It just gets back to college like 30 years ago. But that's the thing, is wanting to learn means you have something to learn. It means being humble, you know? And so like Matt Medeiros in the comments is saying you need confidence. And that's true. You do need confidence in order to do anything new. But also you need to be teachable, right? Mm-hmm. So like in my first year of freelancing, I hit 97% of my target goal, but that was different. I had a different, like, I had to.
You're smarter than me. You're smarter than me.
That was that was very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And people said, how did you do that? And I said, I'm going to give you one word. It's got 4 letters. You ready? Fear. Fear of being homeless. That's how I did it. And then when it still wasn't working as well as I wanted it to, I got a part-time job, So when the leadership changed to make WordPress, I'm like, I have more time for billable hours. Like, that's fine, right? That being uncomfortable is so important, because even when you do get even with freelancer work, and I know it's like construction, it's up, down, client work in general, just like construction, up, down, up, down. I spent a lot of time in construction accounting, so I know it. But the thing is, like, one of my friends called me yesterday and said, how much do you want to make? I go, 30% more than I need. And he goes, why is that? I go, because this.
Mm-hmm.
This is always going to happen. It's going to happen in plugin development. It's going to happen in client work. It's not ever going to change. So up, down, you have to have the confidence to know that you're worth it. You don't even know how many times I have messaged Jen and Jason in our little group, my little peers over there, Jason Tucker and Jen Miller. I don't even know if I should be doing this anymore. Maybe I should just go get a real job. Like, we have those moments. And that's one of the reasons why, just to book in my little plug, that's one of the reasons why WP Up is so valuable, because they have Slack channels for business advice, people with chronic health issues. This is called Spoonies. And you just join their Slack, mental health, everything, physical health, and everybody's there, and they all go through the same thing, and nobody's going to rat you out and say what a fraud you are, because we're all struggling. But today is tool to tip time. Oops. Tool or tip of the week time today is brought to you by Vendor Fuel. Vendor Fuel is a next generation shopping cart plugin that will ignite your e-commerce. Built using an AngularJS front end and a Laravel back end, Vendor Fuel lets you keep your customers on your website for the entire checkout experience. Start your 90-day free trial now and ignite your e-commerce at vendorfuel.com. That's vendorfuel.com. Vendor with a V, because I know I mumble sometimes. So here's my tool or tip of the week. Now, everybody's like, since I was talking to y'all about being an auditory learner, so it's not that I have reading disabilities. It's just that I stopped caring. I'm like, oh yeah, so I'm a squirrel. Maybe I'm ADD. I don't know. Like, I just don't retain as much. And so I love Audible books. And back when I was trying to work for Buffer, you had to read How to Win Friends and Influence People, and Delivering Happiness. And I was like, this is impossible. I'm never going to be able to read this in time to fill out this application. And all my friends were like, audible.com, right? And we know audible.com because they sponsor like every freaking podcast there is. But it's like $30 a month. And it's not like it's that much money, but I don't read that much. And so I was like, I don't know. I'm not commuting anymore. Like, my commute is me putting on my makeup or taking a shower and then walking to my office. It's not, and I write, so I can't listen to words. But then I was like, I should listen to books again. So I went to audible.com, and it's like still 25 something, whatever. And I'm like, I don't know. I just, whatever. So I found out, what the heck? I'm an Amazon Prime member. Did you guys know there's a Kindle app? Now, I'm sure maybe I'm the late bloomer here, because I'm always the late bloomer. But with the Kindle app, you Amazon Prime members get to read books off the Kindle app. Yeah, I did not know this. And there are Amazon Prime books on the Kindle app that they read to you, fiction and nonfiction. Mm-hmm. So I was, I couldn't sleep last night, of course, because I have terrible sleeping. And I'm like, I'm just going to let this thing read to me a story, right? And I had one about something in 1945 Germany. And then last night was something about John Smith and Pocahontas. And I was just like, I don't know the story. I can't remember it. But I didn't know that I mean, as much as I do everything Amazon, I watch Amazon Prime. I mean, I do subscribe and save. Well, I just deleted all mine, but whatever. Like, I'm an Amazon person. Like, I feel like Amazon could be my boyfriend because that's the only person I really communicate with and that many times. Oh, like, this is coming. Oh, this is on its way. Oh, thank you. We love you. This is on your wish list. Look, this just went on sale. Like, they're so good. But I didn't know about the Kindle app. And for years, I could have been using this. So just in case there's somebody in our audience that's just like me, download the Kindle app on your phone, sign into your Amazon account. It will show you books that you can download and read on your own, on your tablet, phone, whatever, or have them read to you. It's so rad.
That's really cool.
I know, isn't that crazy?
I'm a huge Audible listener. I listen to audiobooks all the time. All the places you described that you commute are all the places that I'm actually listening to them. So I listen to them while I'm in the shower. I listen to them while I'm, driving to work. I listen to them while I'm at work. I'm constantly walking around with earbuds in my ears and listening to books. So that's awesome, Bridget. Thank you.
Welcome.
Chris, do you have something yet, or do you want me to jump in first?
I have a tip. It's I'm actually really excited about what WordPress community member Vito Peleg is building. WP Feedback.
Yes.
He's got a community that he's building over there. It's just something to keep an eye on, and I'm really excited to see how that develops. He's essentially building a social network for the WordPress community, so it's pretty exciting.
That's cool. And what's that called?
It's WP Feedback is his product, which is sort of like in the Envision app but for WordPress for doing client projects and getting visual feedback. But I'm not sure what the community is called, but if you want to find out about it, you can find him over at WP Feedback.
Perfect. I'll take a look at that and make sure we get links in the show notes for that as well. That's awesome. I've been playing around. Here's my tooler tip. I've been playing around with an app called Double Take, and I'm an iPhone 11 Pro user, so I have the 3 cameras on the back of my phone. And during their keynote, when they launched this thing, they talked about the software called Filmic Pro. And what Filmic Pro is supposed to do is it's like a high-end video editing, video capture tool. And it's expensive, and it's expensive for an app. So, it's probably $12 or whatever. I can't remember what it was. Going back into, race to the bottom. But at the very bottom, there's an app called Double Take. And Double Take is made by Filmic. And what it does is it lets you use the front and back cameras at the same time and multiple cameras at the exact same time.
Oh, wow.
So let me load it up real quick here. And I don't have my screen sharing app turned on my computer, so I'm not going to be able to show you that. But this right here are all the cameras being turned on all at the exact same time. So I could pick 2 of them, and they'll do picture in picture, and then it'll let me have, say, a ultra wide angle and a wide angle at the same time, or maybe the selfie and the telephoto on at the same time. So if you look there, you can see that I'm really zoomed out on the top left. I'm zoomed in a little bit on that one. And then I'm really zoomed in on the bottom there. So like between all 3 of those, plus you can see my my beauty light back there as well. So, but you can see that, it does both the selfie mode as well as those cameras. So I actually used this recently at work, which was an interesting thing. But I wanted to kind of do a walkthrough of my server room and the things I've been making changes to. And I used the zoomed in mode and the zoomed out mode to be able to show both at the exact same time and flip flop between the 2 of them. So I could say, here's the thing that I'm changing. And this right down here below is where it's at in the room. So you can see an ultra wide and then a very zoomed in. And so it was a great way to essentially document what it was that I was doing in that room. But you can use it for a bunch of other things. If you wanted to show a bird flying, who's perched someplace, you could see that here's the tree that this bird is in, and then here's the bird itself, and kind of show both of them. But there's a whole bunch of really cool things to use it for. I remember, Bridget, we were talking about another app that lets you do front and back cameras. That sort of thing's great when you're kind of trying to show what's happening in a space, but you also want to show your reaction to what's happening in that space.
Or even an interview across the table.
Yeah, interview across the table. And what's neat about this thing is you can do split screen, you can do picture in picture, you can do other picture in picture, so you can kind of flip them around however you need to. So if you're looking for something like that for interviews or anything, social media marketer folks are always looking for cool new ways of doing stuff. And that's our audience here. So hopefully that'd be something that'd be useful for you to take a look at. So go check that out. It's called Double Take. And if you look for the app called Filmic Pro, that's the company that makes it. But Double Take, if you just search in the App Store, you'll be able to find it. And it works on the older phones as well as phones that only have 2 cameras in the back. It'll let you do that as well.
Only 2.
Only 2, jeez. I know it's first world problems here. I totally get it. But for the older models as well, it also works there too. So definitely go take a look at it.
Seriously, you guys, I was cleaning up my desk the other day.
Whoa. Oh, dang.
I have no idea what this is or even how I can get it developed. Do you remember this? We'd put them on, and then you'd put them on at weddings and stuff, and then have people take pictures. I have no idea what this is.
So my daughter got one of those for a thing that she went to for school, and I kid you not, that cost me $30 to get developed. Wow. That camera, because you had to send it into some place who actually had a bag,
does
like a dark
Walmart
green
even
bag.
do that anymore? I don't even know how to get film developed.
So we had to go to Walmart, and we had to spend about $30 to get that dumb thing. Yeah. So I was like, kid, next time here's your phone. Just go take pictures with this thing. It's so much easier.
It's just so crazy. I was looking for my checks. Yes, I write a check for the rent, and because he doesn't do Venmo, my landlord. I go, I know you have a Chase bank account, and not Venmo, Zelle, and I know that Zelle is native. But if you I just want to say, give me your phone. It's fine. I'm he's older. It's fine. So I had to order. I spent $25 ordering another checkbook so I could continue to pay my rent for the next 2.5 years. 25 checks or whatever, 2 years. So the thing is, it's just so funny how exponentially things have changed. And I know that because WordPress is becoming more kind of decoupled and powerful, people are doing progressive web apps and headless stuff and Jamstacks, and it's getting all crazy. How are, just from a last follow-up question, how is Lifter LMS preparing for a Jamstack world, headless, decoupled?
I think it all boils down to structured data, and that I'm super excited about the block editor. I always was, because it's like a more modular component-based approach, and you apply learning sites in different ways depending upon the use case, and people need to be able to move things around and kind of create their own templates and structures and stuff like that. So we're designing everything as much as we can to be as modular, as block-based as possible, so that people can, get really creative and inventive in that way. And the amazing thing about WordPress is, I'm thinking about a company called Tangible Plugins. They built an advanced Lifter LMS integration for Elementor. This is the beauty of WordPress. My other piece of advice to the developer listening out there is to don't do it alone. There are unicorns out there that are brilliant, marketers, product people, developers, but most of the time it's about a small group of people behind a product. So don't do it alone. But then also with the WordPress ecosystem, if you actively support other plugin shops and freelancers and agency owners who want to specialize in your category, you just build so much more and deliver more value together than you ever would by yourself. So yeah, that's kind of a rambly answer to that question, but that's that's where I see the future with LMS and learning. And learning's huge. Learning's a big category. There's a lot that can happen. And if you think that everything has already been done in WordPress, I don't see it that way. I see so much opportunity out there, and so much as a software company. If you are going to build a product, what you're really doing is you're removing friction. So we're in the friction removal business, and there's a lot of friction in life. And when you see that, and you can see a repeatable process or a vehicle you can build to help somebody get a result quicker, no matter what it is, you can build software around that. So yeah, it's not all has not been done. When I hear people say stuff like that, I mean, maybe the early days are over, but there's still so much opportunity.
Yeah, I always say that with people who said, why should I write this? It's already been written. And I'm like, go Google meatloaf recipes. And they say, why? And I have a blog post about this, but meatloaf is essentially ground beef, an egg, some oats, and maybe onions if you're willing to do that. It's really not that big of a deal. You smash it up together, put it in a pan, cook it for 25 minutes at 350. Okay? But go look at how many different recipes there are for meatloaf. My mom makes a meatloaf cake for my stepdad because he doesn't like cake. So she bakes it in the round tins and then puts mashed potatoes in between and peas on the outside and makes a carrot rose. So, it's as open as you want it to be. The world.
Well, and that's about it, folks. I want to say thank you very much for hanging out with us, Chris. I really appreciate it. I want to thank you for all the folks who are in the chat room asking questions. We always appreciate that. If you're interested in being on the show, we would love to hear from you. Go over to WPwatercooler.com/join us, where you can learn how to join us on the show. And if you want to subscribe, WPwatercooler.com/subscribe. Talk to y'all later. You have a good one. Thanks very much, Chris. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.